I got to some calls from the Amish. I realized like God was answering my prayer. Then when Carnivore came along, so he's, you need to check out Dr. Ken Berry. I guided her into a carnivore diet, and a little over a year, she had lost 130 pounds off all of her medications. It was just so beautiful to have my prayer answered. And since then, I've been working with the Amish. He just keeps bringing goodness my way. I started also learning about the Amish, but just beautiful people that they're so kind. I just enjoy being around them. One of the ladies that I helped, Ruth, said, "You have no idea, Kim, how many of these men, just all they want to do is farm. They just want to farm. That's what's in their heart."
So the question is, does humanity need healing? Hello and welcome. Kerry here from Healing Humanity, the Power of a Proper Human Diet. And today I am thankful, grateful, and blessed to have Kim on the channel. Welcome, Kim. How are you doing?
I am doing great. So happy and honored to be here. Humbled.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really interested in talking with you some more. Sounds like you have an incredible health journey of your own, but you also do some work with the Amish. And you emailed me about this, and I don't know if a lot of people watching this know this or not, but my family, we are best friends with a family of Amish folks. We met them several years ago, and I absolutely love them. As a homesteader, I've been homesteading for years and years. I look at the Amish like the ultimate homesteaders. I've learned from them. And interestingly, since I've started Carnivore, they have shown interest in what I'm doing. William, who's the father of the family, came to me and he's, "I want to learn more about this carnivore thing now." And they're actually getting more into regenerative farming and grass feeding their cows and doing some other things differently. So I'm really interested in learning more about what you're doing. Could we maybe start off, Kim, and talk a little bit about your own personal health journey?
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm just a little bit about me. I'm a blessed wife and mom of 6 children. And so about 4 years ago, I came across the carnivore diet through a fasting influencer, Dr. Mindy Pels. She was doing these 5-day challenges like once a month, and I got in on all those challenges. And so I said, what the heck, I'll give this a shot. I had done keto in the past and had good results with that. And fasting I had found to be very beneficial, but I'm like, I'm going to give this a shot. So I did this challenge for 5 days, and it literally changed my world. I was already pretty metabolically healthy, maybe had a few extra pounds I could lose. I was able to do extended fasting and that sort of thing. But the energy that I felt after those 5 days, it was a game changer for me. And so went back to, after that, going back to kind of my normal stuff. And I just could not get that out of my head. It's like this cloud that was following me. Like I need to get back to feeling that way. And what I ended up doing was incorporating it all the more into my life. And it really drove me to want to learn even more than what I had already learned about some ancestral principles. I got this desire as I've been cleaning houses for the past 12 years. And I also homeschool my children. So I've got a lot of buckets in my life. But as I would clean houses and get paid, I was listening and I was learning. And I got this desire within to health coach. And I wrestled with God for a couple years and was like, no, I've got all these other things, Lord. No, this isn't gonna fit. And so anyways, but it kept coming up. And then I got the opportunity back in, I think it was 2020 or 2021, to coach my sister. My sisters both have obesity, morbid obesity. And my one sister was hitting a pretty low point in her life on lots of medications. The mental health was really struggling. And anyways, I said, Michelle, I've had these great results. I know all this knowledge because I couldn't shut up about it. I was telling everybody. So she ended up, my sister, going with me and just letting me guide her. And I guided her into a carnivore diet, and she had amazing results. Over a little over a year, she had lost 130 pounds off all of her medications, except a couple, and sleep apnea, all the stuff, right? All the stuff. Unfortunately, this goes into the whole moderation thing. We ended up going to the Wisconsin Dells as a family, and she started introducing some keto sweets because some other people in the family were all about that. And she's one of those people that she wasn't ready for that. And anyways, it ended up spiraling her. So it's a story. It's sad, but it's just a witness of how some people really can't necessarily moderate. Out of that, coaching her, obviously that was a beautiful experience. And it drove me to want to continue to help people. I ended up saying yes to God and going through the certification. And yeah, I ended up starting this. They lead you into kind of starting an online business and trying to gather people in. And as I did that and kind of took that route, I felt this misalignment. I was doing all these, I call it a simple ancestral lifestyle, is what I call it. The food, the grounding, the nature. Anyways, I felt a misalignment between what I was trying to do online, and it was taken away from my family. It just didn't line up for me. So anyways, I prayed about that, and I wasn't really gathering people. I was like blogging, and I don't think anybody reads blogs anymore. So I wasn't gathering people in either. So I felt like I was doing a lot of work and nothing was really happening. So anyways, I prayed about it, and then shortly after, God sent me Jane, she's another homeschool mom. She lives north of us on organic homestead, and she did my reset with me and had amazing results. And she was an evangelizer as well, and just started spreading. And she is a physical therapist for the Amish up in this community. So that was my connection into this community and working with Jane. And it was just so beautiful to have my prayer answered. And since then, this has been like 9 months or so that I've been working with the Amish. He just keeps bringing goodness my way. I started also learning about the Amish then after I started coaching them, because I'm like, I just want to learn more and be able to meet them where they're at, be able to have these conversations. And yeah, I just went into a deep dive of their history and culture. And I found this word in there as I was reading. It's called the true hearted. And these are people that from the very beginnings of the Anabaptist movement, you had people living around the Amish and people who admired them, people who maybe they didn't want to quite be them, but they wanted to be like them in their simplicity, obedience, and which are such beautiful values that they carry. It's going to make me cry. Those people they called the true hearts or the true hearted. And so I've taken that word, and I want to help true hearted people too, because there's so many of them. People in your community, my homeschool world that I'm part of, I'm also interested in homesteading, and homesteading people are in that same space where they're looking for those same values. And those kind of people are more open, I find, that to knowledge.
Right.
Wow. So that is what led me to the Amish. There's more to my story, but I wanted to keep it short.
No, that's great. You're fasting. That's how you were introduced to this, but how did you go from the fasting to carnivore? Did you just learn about it online, or because carnivore is like a weird thing, right? If YouTube didn't exist, I don't even know if we would have carnivore out in the world. It's such a kind of newer thing.
My husband comes into play here too. 8 years ago, 2016, he had introduced keto through some sort of influencer he found online. And we both did that together and had good results. We struggled to stay with it. We were doing the whole keto sweets, bulletproof coffee, all these different things that was part of that diet. But I learned a lot from that experience and how good I could feel as well. And so I did continue to keep going back to keto, even though I would be a little bit. And then, yeah, I think even with keto, intermittent fasting just naturally occurs, is what I found. I could easily skip breakfast. And then I just finding Mindy Pell's, I can't remember exactly if I was following keto influencers at that time, but I found her and I clung to her, and she's also a fan of keto. Then when Carnivore came along, so my husband was listening to these podcasts at work and that sort of thing. And so he's, you need to check out Dr. Ken Berry. I'm like, okay, he talks about carnivore. So that was my introduction into learning more. And really, he's been huge for my journey. Dr. Anthony Chafee, oh my goodness. I actually reached out to him when I had this working with the Amish because I'd heard him talking on some interviews about the Amish. I was curious since I'm like, I got some insight. I'm going to email him. And he's so gracious. He got right back to me. And I'm like telling him that I'm starting this book and that I would love to come talk to you sometime. Anyways, he was gracious and said, hopefully in time I'll be able to. I have a little like email up on my bulletin board as like my goal to be able to talk to him. I had no idea that I'd be at this point right now talking to you though. So that's really exciting too.
That's so cool. Those doctors are all amazing. I'm not just saying it for flattery. I don't think I would have found Carnivore if not for Dr. Barry, because it was like the reassurance of a doctor talking about this. And then I looked at all the Dr. Barry videos. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is he selling? Like, where's the supplement? Where do I have to sign up? Where do I have to give $1,000 for the diet program? There's nothing here. He's just doing this because he wants to help people. Dr. Chafee's incredible too. He was one of the first people I asked to be in our documentary. He didn't even hesitate. He's like 100%. Yeah. And I asked him to be on my channel, similar to how you reached out. I'm like, why is he going to want to talk to little homesteader Kerry on my channel? And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. Great. And it like, I learned so much from him early on, probably helped convince me to do the documentary to learn from more of these other doctors. That's incredible.
It's okay.
Where are you from, Kim?
So I'm close to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I was just listening to the interview that you did with Dr. Rick, who is from Carroll, Iowa, which is kind of Des Moines. And I was like, I got to reach out to this guy. We've got so much in common. His motive is very much with the so passionate too, like this whole farming and what we're doing to our future generations.
He was incredible. I couldn't believe it when I was talking to him, some of the stuff he was saying. It's amazing. That was one of the things that helped convince me when I was thinking about doing Carnivore. It was just the sheer fact, wait a minute, there's a heart surgeon, Phil Bavadia, that eats this way. Dr. Barry eats this way. Neurosurgeon. All of these doctors are eating this way. Maybe I should just consider it a little bit more or look into it a little bit more, sort of thing. But in terms of the Amish, Kim, could you tell us a little bit more? I think a lot of people watching this might be confused or not even know. What does it mean to be Amish? A lot of people think, oh, is that like a religion? What is that sort of thing? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I'll do the best that I can from what I understand for sure. But yeah, it is religious. It is. They have very strong Christian faith, which aligns perfectly with me as well. But yeah, they have vows of like simplicity. So you see, they dress very simple. They're not using electricity like we do. They have their wood burning stoves. And you can't say that overall though, because actually each community can be different in what rules they have for. So the community that I work with is still doing horse-drawn work. There's another community in Iowa that I know that they have tractors, but they don't have the rubber tires on them. So that limits them. So each community, you may find a little bit of difference, but just beautiful people that they're so kind. I just enjoy being around them. Does that answer your question? I guess
it does. And what you just said there, beautiful people, and I just feel like being around them. I share that 100%. It's hard to describe to people, but the first time we met with this Amish family, my wife and I were both like, we love these people. They're so kind. They're the Amish family we're friends with. They told us they live by joy. Jesus, others, yourself, in that order. But they truly do that. And I remember like during the big pandemic, when the whole world was going crazy, they were just like, whatever, we'll worry about it if it affects us. It's not affecting us now. So we're going to go outside and we're going to work in the field and we're going to work with the horses and we're going to make our own food and we're going to do our own thing. And if it hits us, we'll worry about it when it happens. But I was like, that is just that's how everybody should be dealing with this. And everyone's running around like a chicken with its head cut off, panicking. And they're so joyful, so calm. They invited us over. William had to have surgery a couple years ago. I don't know if you've ever heard this, Kim. This was crazy. There's an Amish hospital in Mexico. And it's like a thing. Like Amish from all over the United States will actually travel down to Mexico to go to this Amish hospital. And I think the way the Amish community works is they all kind of chip in. They almost have like their own insurance. But William had to go in for a hernia surgery. And so he needed a ride to Illinois, like 3 hours away. So my wife and I offered, we'll just take you. You don't have to pay us anything. And a couple months later, when he came back, they invited us over for dinner. It was the most beautiful dinner. It was perfect. Their whole family, little wood fire going. It was so quiet, so peaceful, but they're different people. I want to be more like them. They're full of joy and gratitude. And, but with that said, they do have health issues. My Amish friend William was asking me for advice, and he had the hernia surgery, then he had some other health issues. So, what are you seeing in the community in terms of Amish health issues and some things you're working on with people?
Absolutely. Inflammation, obviously, is happening, whether it's in the brain with fog, gut issues, lots of gut issues, pain, just pain, like almost they call it, the word we use is fibromyalgia, I think, but just pain throughout the body, whether that's arthritis or that, whatever it is. They don't go to the doctor a whole lot. So a lot of times they don't have necessarily a diagnosis, but from what I hear from them, it's all very common to do with, yeah, gut. See if I missed anything, but also headaches is another big thing. They're dealing with obesity as well. Honestly, when you're health coaching Amish, you don't have all those health markers to go by, that kind of thing. So it's just basic stuff and keep it simple. And that's what I'm all about. Simple ancestral coaching is what I do. And even if you're Amish or not, we're not going to be looking at anything but how you feel, really, because
Right.
your story tells everything you need to know. Usually, obviously, you got to be, if it's serious conditions, I don't take on people like that, but just people who are having those kind of normal things, almost we normalized, right, from your video I
Right.
watched.
With the
um,
community around me, I've noticed the same thing. It's amazing what the Amish are doing. They're outside working all the time. They make a lot of their own food, but a lot of the community that I've seen, it's lots of sugar, lots of baked goods that they either bake themselves or they're getting gas station foods. Like across from the movie theater, where my wife and I own our small town movie theater. We are in a town of 1,400, big Amish community, not too far away. We see Amish horse and buggy at the gas station across the street from the movie theater, and they're going in there and they're buying pizza and donuts and junk food. So I see what you're seeing. A lot of the standard American diet has really crept into their diet as well.
and that's shift is what I've been interested to write about, really. If you go back just a little in their history after World War II, from what I learned is they were approached by the government saying, you're outdated, you're not going to be able to be part of this global market. And so, unfortunately, since then, slowly, they've been pushed out of farming. The community that I work in, that I'm helping in, is the people that I work with are super open and they share and they want to tell me about their history and everything. But this 28-year-old Amish guy that I recently helped was saying that his dad, when glyphosate came up, a lot of the farmers there thought this was going to be good and that we don't have to deal with weeds. It's going to be easier. So they took that. But, anyways, in time, they have realized that wasn't good. And this community, he had said that he knows of only one Amish person that's still doing that. But you also have that shift in farming, right? So 90, this is percentages they gave me. So I'm just talking to people. 90% or so were farmers 30 years ago, where today, it's almost opposite. It's maybe 25% that are
Wow.
farming. So it's a big shift because now you see them working construction. You see them in town. There's 30 different construction businesses in this community. Yeah, that's the work that the dad's doing now. They're not at home at the farm taking care, and then they have a large families. And so you think of these kids, and they've got the impact just keeps going, right? Just the same way it has for us. If we think back to Abraham Lincoln days, everybody was pretty much homesteading.
Yeah.
Everything's shifted. Like for me, it's like, where have we gone wrong? Like, where is the shift that went wrong? And it goes back to agriculture. And the Amish were known as the best farmers. That's what they're known as. And so I feel like they are part of the solution. They're the people who are the open to learning and open to knowledge. One of the ladies that I helped, Ruth, said, you have no idea, Kim, how many of these men just all they want to do is farm. They just want to farm. That's what's in their heart. That's what they grew up doing. And because of land prices going up so much, you're trying to go out and fund your own farming, it's just almost impossible.
That really weighs on my heart. People that are farming like that, we should be lifting them up. They should be celebrated. They should be rewarded financially. And it's like you said, 90% down to 20%. it's everywhere too, like, not just the Amish, just small independent farmers. I had my neighbor on my channel, he's a 6th generation farmer. He works so hard, and just like the Amish, like you said, he loves it. It's his passion, it's all he wants to do in the world, but on top of that, he's working a full-time job at a factory because he can't pay the bills because he's not getting paid enough, even though he's probably one of the best farmers out there. He's literally 6th generation. He's doing everything right and properly. They're selling meat on there, and they still can't afford to support the whole thing because there's so much incentive against them doing that. It really makes me scared for the future because when I'm thinking of my neighbor, I'm like, what future generation is going to be like, yeah, me, let's do it. But then meanwhile, we have this whole
Mhm.
community of Amish that are willing to do it. We have my neighbor that wants to do it, his children potentially, but there's hardly any incentive to anymore because they're just make it so hard for them to do that.
Yeah. And as far as I can give you some stories too of people I've helped and the results that they're having, it's really amazing. They do shift very quickly. And mm, the majority of people who I've worked with, Amish wise, they are ready to go to gold standard. Like they want to go right into it. They want to go not just ease into it necessarily. Let's just eat just meat, salt, and butter.
What kind of conversation do you have with them at first? Imagine I'm William and I'm 80 pounds heavier. My stomach hurts. I had a hernia surgery, inflammation, brain fog. What kind of conversation would you have?
Yeah. So I'm very thankful from what I've learned from like Dr. Ken Berry and Dr. Chafee because they've done such a great job of bringing the simplicity to this to us. So yeah, it's usually they've heard about it from somebody else who's experienced. So they maybe have an idea. Well, there's a lot of eating meat, that kind of thing. But yeah, I just go right into the proper diet, the basis of diet not being a verb, something you do, but something what is. This is.
Quick interruption. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about our documentary, Healing Humanity, The Power of a Proper Human Diet, or supporting it, please visit donate.healinghumanity.movie. Our goal is to reach millions of people that are hopeless right now and sharing the examples of real people over the course of 1 year that are undertaking a proper human diet to overcome obesity, type 2 diabetes, depression, anxiety, fertility issues. We couldn't do it without you. We thank you so much. We are also selling these shirts, Healing Humanity, The Power of a Proper Human Diet. Every penny we get from those goes towards the documentary. And last, we have memberships. If you click the little join button, it's best to do it on desktop. Under any one of my YouTube videos, you can join and become a member. We have hundreds of members right now. We do members only videos. We do members only behind the scenes. You can email me as a member and I'll answer you. And every penny from that goes to support the documentary. And the last thing is we have these Redmonds portable salt shakers. These things are awesome. You can get the best salt. You can take it with you. We sell these on the website along with our water bottles and cutting boards, and every penny from all of those goes 100% towards supporting the documentary. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which is completely free. All of these links are in the description below. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to today's video.
So going into just some history about our, and then also just using the example of how what we've done to our animals, cats, dogs, that example of giving them the improper diet and what happens if we gave a cow what it wasn't supposed to do, just make it applicable to them. And they seem to receive that. It's common sense, right? Common sense works for common people. So they tend to be ready to go and dive in. And I find too that they do a pretty good transitioning because a lot of the people have been eating meat, a decent amount of meat still, but they'll have some fruit, veg, and then some processed foods. Some of them are having issues with einkorn flour and a lot of sugar. Einkorn flour is like this and this ancient grain that's supposed to be, and they Amish are all about it, but I'm working with people who do that and are having still issues.
Mm. So, what kind of results have you seen?
It's really beautiful. What a beautiful journey I get to take with people. I just absolutely love it. Within days, the bloat just seems to go away. Inflammation is down. I talk to people weekly over 12 weeks. And even by after week 1, 2, there's just a shift already happening with inflammation down, like I said. And then as time goes on, it opens a window when you start eating this way. fast. Fasting becomes natural. And the Amish are really about fasting. It's actually part of their religious tradition as well. They have certain days of the year that they fast. The Amish man that I was talking about, the 28-year-old, he said fasting before, I would skip a meal and it was an automatic migraine headache, just skipping a meal. By the end, he had done a 36-hour fast and felt very good. And the mental part of it, I think that's the best benefit, to be able to have a clear brain. He made the comment that these stories that they tell me melt my heart. Anyways, he would read a book before and he didn't understand what he read. But now when he reads something, it just makes sense. I don't have to go back and reread it. He also has this business where he does his side business at home. He does like a small mortar type work he does. And he was reading some sort of manual and couldn't figure it out. Then he went on to this longer fast. And by the end of the fast, he had said, my brain was so clear, I understood it all.
Mm-hmm.
His other story that's so beautiful too is his family takes this trip to County Park like once a year. It's 5 miles away with the horse and buggy. And he has 3 small children and his wife. And anyways, he took that trip while I was working with them this past year. And he said in the past, he'd be trying to keep his kids in line. He was frustrated and he would always get a massive migraine headache. And then he had to go home and he had to go feed the goats and he had to milk the goats. And it was like almost a dreading day. And yeah, so what he explained to me this time is so beautiful. He was towards the end of his reset with me. He enjoyed the day with his kids. He was leaning into spending time with them. The relational part of it, just changes things too. And then he never got a headache. He was picking berries with his kids. He had started bringing some things back in. We do a 30-day elimination. And then if they want to bring things back in, do that slowly and see how your body responds. And yeah, he enjoyed the day and he didn't have a headache. And he said, I was ready to come home and milk the goats.
Life-changing.
Yeah.
Most people end up changing their diet for some major health reason, depression or type 2 diabetes or weight loss or something, but it seems like that is a huge benefit that most people overlook, is having that clarity of mind afterwards. And everybody says it. Everybody says the same thing. Knew I had some brain fog earlier, but I didn't realize how deep the brain fog was until you get out of it. It changes everything, like you said, just relationships with your family, reading. Like the biggest thing that I've learned from people is whatever their success metric is, it seems to go up. And it seems like I'm hyping all of this up, but it's true. Like when you have a clear mind, and I've said this many times on my channel, but before this, it was almost like you're mildly intoxicated, like you're walking around a little bit impaired. And you do that your whole life. You don't know what it's like to see clearly. And once you can see clearly, life is just so much better. Dr. Rick said on the channel the other day, aren't you just happier on Carnivore too? I'm like, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like the Carnivore Zen or whatever. And the thing that's sad for me is everyone should feel like that. And most people will never feel like that. Only us that are doing a proper diet will feel like that. But most people will go their whole life never feeling that.
There's something very spiritual too. I'm blessed to be able to bring that into my coaching. But another thing that this Amish man and other people I've worked with too is you want to go to pray and you can't concentrate. Your brain's not there. And when you change your food, that opens up a whole new level of spirituality for you too. And that connectiveness. And I think that's what this is all about for me, is connectiveness, like connecting people to God, to their food, to their family. That's the big goal. Like that's what we all want. We all want to have that connectedness. And it's so simple.
Yeah. Here. Were they at all standoffish? I don't know what they do here, if this is an Amish thing. I'm called the English. There's the Amish and then there's the non-Amish. We're the English. And I guess it's not that they've always been really welcoming to me, but it's almost like you're a different group of people. So were they at all standoffish with kind of your approach or changing their diet?
No, and as even just being in English, not being part of, but they were very welcoming. And I think having Jane as she's their physical, she's actually like their doctor of their community. She's not a doctor, but she's got a lot of like natural ways of going about things. And so they actually go to her. She's the go-to person. So if they trust her. And if Jane says that this lady, so they trusted me, I think just from her. So that was a window in for me.
Nice. What about Amish children? Are they following in the footsteps of English children with the foods too, or have you noticed anything there?
Yeah, definitely. There is some families more than others, right? They have these big discount stores. That's what the Amish are like, making a lot of money that way because they can't do the farming. So they find other ways. So they've developed these grocery store type places where they're getting some sort of discounted foods and they sell them very cheap. So they're there shopping though too. And it's a lot of processed foods is mostly actually fills those stores. I've seen them eating marshmallows, all the crackers, and yeah. And even as I helped a mom of 10. She was really struggling at the beginning, just overwhelmed by life, not feeling well. And then she took to this too, had good results, and she was desiring to bring her kids back in or into it too. Just like any of us, if you don't keep to it, I could see that there was some sliding happening there. And she had noticed that even eating this way, the kids started behaving better. They're not at the table. So.
That's great. Is there, I guess, outside of nutrition, are there other lessons or wisdom that you've learned from the Amish that you'd like to share?
Yeah. The first time I went to this community, I got to say, these are my people because they're all running around barefoot.
That was the first thing I noticed when my wife and I visited. That kid doesn't have any shoes on. What's going on? He's wandering around in the dirt. Now I do it all the time. This was before I started doing it, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah. And I asked Susie about that. She said, yeah, and it saves us money. Okay. But no, that's one of them. But really, I think it goes back to just witnessing the way that they live, what you talked about. And they don't have the technology that we have. They don't have a phone in their face all the time. They don't have a screen typing on. They're just more connected to the land in so many ways too. They're drawn outside more. If you're not have all the stuff, you're drawn outside more. So for me, just the simplicity, I think, is what I really admire about them and try to incorporate that more into my life. I think too, we live in such a busy world. And as a parent with how many children I have, I think I'm like, they're okay. Their kids are all right. We can stay home. We don't have to be in every single activity under the sun. Like we can just be a unit. We can be a team. So that one is great.
They're the least connected with technology, but they're like the most connected people. They're connected with the world and everything that's important. It's been such a blessing knowing this family. Interestingly, I did a couple of videos with them. They don't like to be photographed, and I've always respected that, but they've actually allowed me to film with them. One of the videos I did with them, he taught me how to ride the horse and buggy. It was so much fun. He was making fun of me too. William, he's awesome. He's like, the horse can sense your fear. He's like, chill out. This is normally the horse we have like the 12-year-old ride. He's like, come on, you can do this. I was riding the horse down the side of the busy road with traffic going by 55 miles an hour. That was a lot of fun. And I did another video with him. William invited me. Do you want to see how we keep our food cool year round? I was like, sure, why not? And this was before I was carnivore. So I went with him to the pond and we did Amish ice harvesting, which is a big activity they do once a year. They go to the pond. They have these huge saws and they cut out chunks of ice that are about 60 to 90 pounds a piece. They're huge. It was the most backbreaking, difficult work of my entire life. I'm thankful that I did it and I stuck it out because I learned so much. But that's how they refrigerate their food all year round. They have a freezer with the cord cut off because they have no electricity. They put a big chunk of ice in there. And then out in the barn, they have a big ice freezer. It's just a big insulated box and the ice stays in there. And amazingly, with no electricity, that ice lasts all year round because it's so dense and it's well insulated. It just stays in there. When we did it, they're like, yeah, we got 3 left from last year. I'm like, that lasts all through and everything. It's crazy. Such hard workers.
It is. The reason why people really connect with them and want to be, they're drawn to them, the interest is there, is I think deep within us, that's how we're made to be.
Yeah.
We're made to be living in that simple way. I'm a homeschooler, we read aloud Little House on the Prairie, and it just uplifts the heart to hear how people lived, and like what you're talking about, they're still doing it.
It's like this whole thing, like with this was all going to be, let's do a documentary on the carnivore diet. And then I've since learned it's not that I'm doing the carnivore diet that I'm so much healthier. It's that I've just returned to what's natural for humans. Fasting's been a big part of that too, by the way. I believe humans have fasted since the start of time. We wouldn't have always just been able to grab some food and eat it whenever we wanted to. And I feel like the Amish, although a lot of the standard American diet is creeping in there, but for the most part, they're pretty darn close to as natural as you can get. Outdoor in the sunshine with their feet in the grass, exercising and doing hard work and eating a lot of food they grow their own, absent the standard American diet stuff that's crept in there. So I think there's so much we can learn from them.
And that's like the big issue.
Yeah.
But that doesn't match up when you take it to the Amish community, who they're having health issues. And really, they don't have the same, they have stress, but not the kind of chronic stress that we're talking about. So that kind of points to that it's the food, especially when they go through with me. I don't have that many examples, but obviously you do, of people changing their life just by the food. So the stress management, and that's what I find too, you just can deal with your stress in your life when your physiology is right.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. There's so much stress that we've created with all this technology and these supposed conveniences in helping us. But you look at the Amish and they don't have those stresses. Their phone isn't like buzzing and dinging. Oh, it's almost like an electric shock for people. All of the notifications and interruptions and these so-called conveniences actually add more stress to us. It's got to be a big part of a lot of the sickness in the world. People are run down, exhausted, and not doing the proper things. I think like my Amish friends, they don't have any issues sleeping. I thought about that before with my wife, Jen. I'm like, yeah, I used to have insomnia, depression, and other things, but I'm working on a computer. Like, oh, how hard is this to do all day? And I'm not getting exercise. They're exhausted by the time their head hits the pillow. They're sleeping and they're out. And it's because they're out there working and they're getting the sunshine and all of that.
Absolutely. Yep. I agree. The people that surprised me, honestly, because a lot of times I call them true-hearted people that I'm working with. Sleep is almost always an issue, even with the health issues they're having. So
is there anything you can think of? One of the questions I get a lot with Carnivore, we talked a little bit about faith and religion. I'll get a lot of comments on my channel where people are saying, yeah, but the Bible says you can eat this, or the Bible says you could do that. Any thoughts on that?
That is a really good question. And I have done some deep dives into that. I'm going to actually take this just a different direction, because I think that anybody could argue whatever they want from the Bible. I think there's plenty of examples of eating meat in the Bible. I don't think that even can be argued. But I think the Bible teaches detachment more than anything. That's the path to Christ, is through detachment. And I don't think that you can find a better way. This is my personal opinion, but to detach than the carnivore diet. You're letting go of, people are so clung on to food, and they're so clung on to their addictions. If you can overcome your addiction to food, you can take on the world. You become an overcomer. God's going to bring other things that are below the surface that he wants you to deal with. And that's that, you're in that mental space that you can be ready. And that's what happened to me, honestly, by healing my body through carnivore, through keto fasting, especially carnivore. Wounds that I had been suppressing, anger that had been suppressed. All of a sudden, I was ready to go at. I was ready to deal with. I was ready to, and what a game changer for me. It's just, I don't know. God is healing. Okay, so that's that whole, like, it's miraculous. It's magic. Dr. Kerry did a video. Our bodies are miracles. We are born into it. He made us that way to be able to heal. Proper inputs, the body tends to heal.
Yeah. It's been amazing, eye-opening for me, the healing I've witnessed from people. Just getting out of the way, just putting the proper fuel in and healing. I love what you said about the Bible too, because that was one thing I've realized. We filmed a pastor in Austin, and he was talking about prior to doing Carnivore, he feels he was breaking one of the 10 commandments by idolizing food. And I was thinking, yeah, you're right. I think everyone does. I know I'm not judging anyone, but I definitely did prior to Carnivore. That's all I thought about so much. What are we going to eat next? What's for dinner? What's the birthday party coming up? What are we going to eat there? All of the different ingredients and recipes and energy going into the food. I don't do any of that now. And his was, imagine if you spent all of that energy and reverence and focus on God, as the commandment says, being first versus the food. If the whole world did that, it'd be incredible. And that has definitely been true for me. There's so much more focus and energy now. People don't realize, I think, how much time and effort it takes on the standard American diet and how much focus is drained away from us on food all day long thinking about it. I don't even think about it anymore. I slow cooked some meat last night. I ate it for 10 minutes today, and that's all I'm going to eat until tomorrow. I have all the nutrients my body needs. I'm absolutely thriving. I feel incredible. I don't have to think about any of it. All that excess energy now to focus on other more important things is just incredible.
Absolutely.
Kim, what would you say to most of our audience is not going to be Amish? So what would you say to just the general public that's watching this? There's probably people out there that are hopeless, that are thinking of doing Carnivore, but maybe like you, definitely like me at one time. That's crazy. Like, you can't just eat meat. That's nuts. What kind of advice, or how would you talk to them just to try to help them understand a little bit better?
I'll just encourage that true-hearted spirit within you, just to open your heart up, open your mind up to what could be. The people who are sharing their testimonies and the doctors that are sharing, they're not out there selling you some product. They're trying to sell you support. Maybe that's the only thing I want to sell, is somebody to help. They want to help you. I think that we just have a very closed mind sometimes. And when we can just open our hearts and open our minds to somebody's story, even stories of healing, and what is it going to hurt to go, I went 5 days and had amazing results and got to have an amazing experience, just to give it a shot. Could change your life.
Well, just to circle back to what you said earlier, it was a 5-day fast you did at first?
It's a fasting channel, so she called it a carnivore fast, which, yeah, so that's what it was, just eating meat for 5 days.
It's amazing in just a couple days, the healing you can see. I always tell people the same thing too. What do you have? For me, it was like, what do I have to lose? I am so miserable. I have so many health issues. If you look at the totality of your life, what's 5 days? It's not even a blip on the radar. It's like minuscule, and it could potentially change your life forever. What do you have to lose? I think about, what do I have to lose if I don't do it? It's everything else.
Yeah. And I think that if you can just take a look around, just look at everybody else around you, everybody's getting bigger, more unhealthy. We're obviously not doing the right thing. What do you have to lose to try something that's working for people?
You're answering my next question, but this is a question I like to ask everybody. The documentary we're doing is called Healing Humanity. So the question is, does humanity need healing?
Ooh. Most definitely. Our land needs healing. Our people need healing. And I know God wants to heal everyone. He wants to bring everybody into healing. And I pray that people open themselves up, because it is a step that we have to take. And when we take that step, we receive grace. We receive grace to do it. Just keep taking the next step. Some people can go do these things in an instant. Maybe they have a terrible health diagnosis, or they've just been miserable for so many years. They're trying to seek something like different out. Some people need that hardcore carnivore, and some people just need to take some steps. And so I think that just know yourself and know what you need, and just let God guide your path.
Absolutely. So what are your future goals? Are you going to be pretty much carnivore for the rest of your life, or what are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
so I would call myself an almost carnivore. I'm definitely not full on carnivore. I'm probably 95%. So I'm very interested in ancestral eating in general. So like Dr. Bill Schindler is also somebody who I've learned a lot from. So yeah, in my family, we do a little sourdough. I found that doesn't work for me, but I give that to my kids. But maybe even dairy, being able to learn the fermentation process. So that's all just a passion of mine, is learning these different ancestral techniques on how we prepared food to make it better.
Can you talk about that just a little bit more, ancestrally speaking, like a food? Because I heard someone say recently, like, we were never intended to have, for example, spinach every single day in a salad or certain ingredients. Can you touch on that a little more?
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think that the anti-nutrients our body can deal with somewhat. If you give your body it one day and don't have it again for another week, you probably be okay. Your body has time to detox. But if we're constantly eating the same, like potatoes every single day, your oxalate load's going to keep building up and your body doesn't have time to detox. And these plants, and you've talked about this before, they're not the same plants as they were. So we're taking plants that have been hybridized, totally changed. Some for the good. If you had a potato back from way back, it was very toxic to eat, where we've been able to make it less. I'm trying to think of the way to say this. Because it is like skirting around. The most nutrient dense food is meat. And that's what I want to give my kids, is the most nutrient dense foods. And that's what they do get the majority of. But I also think it's important for them to see this other side, especially as the world that we're living in, and to be able to have the sourdough. How does that make your body feel? Have the bread at Culver's. How does that make you feel? And to be able to see the difference. And then also for me to just give to them principles. I could totally just be carnivore. But I do take my kids into consideration, and yeah. So that's partly what drives, I think, my desire to want to learn these other techniques.
That's wonderful. This has been great, Kim. I really love what you're doing. It's really inspiring. Your heart is in the right place, and it's awesome. Is there anything else you want to say or mention or shout out if people want to learn more? I know this is your first interview, so I don't know if you have any social media or anything you want to shout out or share. Feel free to.
I have a little Facebook page. It's very small. If anybody wanted to join into that, I could put that down, or we could put that in the notes. I'm writing a book, so I'm excited for that. Hopefully in time, as that comes out, maybe we can talk again.
Absolutely. What's the book? Do you
Yeah,
have a title yet, or?
I do. It's called Return to Simple.
Oh, I love it. My wife and I started a Facebook group called Return to Natural, so we're on the same
We
line
are.
there. That's what
We
it's all
are.
about.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you again or shout the book out when you get it ready for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I will
But
put,
yeah, I can share maybe my landing page too if anybody's interested in emailing me or learning anything. It'd be interesting to
yeah,
see if anybody would be interested in it, but to hear more from me. So
yeah, baby steps. YouTube is great, but it's a lot. I always tell people, if you want to share your story, do it. It's great because you'll inspire people, but it is a lot of work. But
yeah, and I think that my story already has led to away from that. And I think that's probably where I'm supposed to stay and maybe visit people who are
right.
already doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This has been great. Thank you so much, Kim. I look forward to the book. I will have links in the description for everything Kim just mentioned. And thank you so much, Kim. Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.